Okay, I think we're ready to go. We're a little past 5:30, but I don't think we've got anyone else coming. So we'll do a call to order.
Ricardo Diaz. Tony Allegretti.
Present.
Katrina Kindle.
Present.
Peggy Patton.
Present.
Ashley Withers.
And do we have a quorum?
Yes, there is a
Okay,
quorum.
great. I know Ricardo couldn't be here, and apparently Ashley couldn't as well, but we'll proceed anyway. Additions to the agenda, we'll move to section B. I believe we're moving G2 up to C2, because it's a voting item. I think we have to get a
You have to get a
motion for that.
Yes.
So if someone wants to motion that. Oh, do we have a copy of the agenda? I guess G2 is the schedule for next year.
right.
It lists the dates, which have to be approved by the board, so we're moving that up because I believe, Katrina, you may be leaving at some point this evening early, and we need you to vote.
6:30.
Yeah, okay, perfect. But we can get these things done earlier,
Okay.
and that way we're not pressed for time. But right, and go ahead and turn your mic on.
I make a motion that we approve the 2024 CRB meeting schedule dates that have been presented.
Well, we're just moving them first.
Oh,
Yeah.
I make a motion to move those dates.
Okay. Second that?
Take a vote, or we can do by ascension.
Aye.
Ayes?
Aye.
Aye.
No nays, so that is approved. We'll move that to, let's move that to C2. I think that's all the motions we have, or any other additions to the agenda that anyone would like to see? Okay, so moving on to C1, that's approval of the minutes from our previous meeting, which was attached to the agenda. Anyone have any discussion regarding the minutes?
I guess the only thing I wanted to add is has to do with the minutes related to ordinance changes from September 27th. I didn't want to lose track of some of the things we talked about that weren't reflected in the minutes. One is that we tabled a discussion about what constitutes firsthand account that, is outlined in the ordinance.
Right.
And we talked about that quite a bit, whether or not it included video or not. And we agreed that the use of video had changed a lot since the ordinance was adopted in 2009. And if my little handwritten notes are correct, someone said that there was a discussion at the 2020 CPRB meeting before I was on the board, where a city attorney spoke about the use of video. And I thought Tom was going to look that up and report back about that, so we could continue the discussion about use of video. Okay. That's on that, okay. So I didn't want to lose track of that. And the other thing that we talked about that I just didn't want to lose track of, we spent quite a bit of time when we were talking about ordinance changes about the question of who responds to administrative appeals, whether it's the CPRB or administrative staff. And I wrote down that we decided it was a procedural matter, not one that required an ordinance change. But then there was some discussion about complaints going to the HR office, who would not a sworn officer, who would then track it and share that with CPRB members if we needed to kind of agree that it was in fact an administrative matter and not a police matter. I just didn't want our collective understanding to be lost, because those were two big items that we spent a lot of time on: use of video, and then whether or not administrative complaints would go to CPRB or to administrative staff. So. Well, or in today's minutes, like I said, I just worry that we'll come back to this topic and we'll have completely forgotten what we talked about, especially since, my memory isn't great. And if it's not written down, that we agreed to come back and talk about use of video, which is a big one. And we agreed to kind of formalize the administrative complaints. I'm afraid we won't make any progress whatsoever on either of those topics, because we agreed both of those topics were important to reconcile in the ordinance, or in our procedures.
So, Peggy, do you just want that added to the minutes? Is that kind of what you're asking?
Right, amending the minutes,
Okay.
whatever's the best way you think to go forward, whether we want to amend the minutes and include, reflect those two items, or have those reflected in our, I wasn't sure when we talked about updates to ordinance next steps tonight, if that would be a better place to put them. But if you think it should be recorded in the September minutes, because that's when we first talked about them, I'm fine with that too.
Could we make them agenda items at a meeting? Would that suffice, or do you want them in the minutes?
I guess I would prefer to have them in the minutes as a record that we talked about that when we talked about ordinance changes at our September meeting. So when we come back and we start moving ahead on ordinance changes, there is a record that these were two items we talked about, and this is what we came to. And again, the video discussion was sort of tabled because we wanted to have access to this video from a 2020 meeting, is what I wrote down, where a city attorney actually talked about use of video.
Well, I think from the last meeting, I think Peggy, I think I remember finding in my notes and referring you to it. I don't remember saying it was gonna be played or something like that, but we can, as far as just for the approval of the minutes on the agenda, if you want to make a motion to amend the agenda to include that there was discussion about first-person observations in relation to video, and then also the role or the possible changes to our procedure regarding administrative appeals, I think we can do that now. As far as discussing them later, I think we need to add that to a new meeting.
That would be fine.
Okay.
So what you're suggesting is to add items to the minutes, not the agenda. Is that correct?
I think we're gonna do that. I think there's gonna be a motion for that now.
Okay.
And then at a future meeting, we can add on to the agenda
Okay.
those, make sure on the agenda to discuss.
I
And I think we can discuss some of that under unfinished business tonight. It may not be very concrete, or we're not gonna be able to vote on anything, but
Okay.
we can discuss it a little bit more maybe tonight if we'd like.
So for clarity, you would like to have, you're going to amend the minutes, a motion to amend the minutes to reflect that there was discussion about those three things.
About what constitutes a first-hand account, and does it include video? And then who responds to administrative appeals?
Okay.
CPRB or administrative staff. And we did say it was a procedural issue, it did not require an ordinance change. We did say that at the September meeting.
I guess,
But the
I
procedure,
don't think
we didn't
put
talk about.
Did we put everything in the minutes?
if, Peggy, if you wanna make a motion to amend the minutes to include those topics, I think that's, hear that now,
Okay,
if you wanna do that.
yes, I
Okay.
move to amend the minutes to include those topics. Thank you.
A second.
We can just do a voice roll call. All in favor?
Yes.
All opposed? The ayes have it, so we'll amend the minutes to include those three topics were discussed at the last meeting in September, and then we can discuss in some depth later on in the agenda. Let's then move on to C2. I think we're good with C1. The minutes have been, well, I guess we need to vote to approve the amended minutes then. So we can do that by ascension. I'm saying that wrong. That's the wrong word in English. It's not a high holy day.
Yeah.
By my voice. Yeah, so do we have a motion to approve the amended minutes?
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, it carries. So we've approved the amended minutes for September 27th meeting of this year. Now let's move to what's been amended to C2, which was previously G2, the 2024 CPRB meeting schedule. Those are all, has everyone had an opportunity to look at those dates?
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything from Ricardo or Ashley about them being an issue. Carla, have we?
No, we haven't heard anything.
Okay. The only question I had, that November date, that's the week before Thanksgiving. I'm assuming we're not setting this on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
That is correct. That's why it comes up as a different week. It's the third Wednesday
right,
as
okay.
opposed to the fourth Wednesday that year.
Got it. Perfect. Okay. Does anyone have any objections or want to discuss the other dates?
No, I mean, I may have a conflict with the May 29th date. I'm going to work to see if I can change it, but there's a good chance I can't, so. But
Okay.
that's, I mean, if there was many of us for whom that was true, then we could look at another date. But if there's at least 2 others or 3 others who know for certain they can make it, because there's a reasonable chance I won't be able to change my current conflict.
Okay, well, if there's something that comes up, we can discuss it before that May date on February, and potentially amend it if we need to, if it's going to be a problem as far as
Yeah.
having a quorum. But
I-
if,
I will know by then.
perfect. If there's any other discussion, I'll take a motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve the 2024 CPR meeting dates that were presented.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. So those are approved. For 2024, the schedule as outlined in the agenda is approved without any changes. All right, we will move then to public input. I don't know if we don't have anyone in the galley today, and I don't know if we've received any comments via email or any other communication medium. So we will then move to the officer's report. Carla?
Okay. For the meeting for today, for November, we've had 2 complaints were submitted since the last meeting in September. 1 complaint was found to be against an officer from another police department, not Urbana, so that one was not counted in ours. The other complaint has been processed and forwarded to UPD for investigation. And the one that was not ours was sent to the proper department. All copies of complaints and supporting documents have been uploaded to the portal for member review, and the complaint log has been updated. CPRB brochures have been updated and will be ready for print soon. We were just waiting for the HRC so we could do them all at once. We've updated both boards' information. Requests to visit neighborhood association letters have been mailed and emailed to each group. The visits are to present information about the Office of Human Rights and Equity, and to recruit new members for CPRB and for the Human Relations Commission. And I will be asking members to join me at these events to help share about the work of the boards and hopefully get some people to want to join.
Great.
Spoke with members of the MLK Advocacy for Justice Committee members. The majority are area ministers. And so I made a request for an opportunity to speak with their congregations about the Office of Human Rights and Equity and board recruitment. And again, I will ask all members to join me if possible, once I get them scheduled. And they all had a resounding yes, you can definitely come. So it'll be about a 5 or 10, no more than a 5-minute presentation, and then perhaps maybe at the end, talk to people who have questions.
Okay.
CPRB members and staff participated in the TASER training, and I think, Peggy, you were one of them?
And Ashley.
Ashley, and then Tom, you did also. And then attended the virtual membership 2-day meeting for the Government Alliance for Racial Equity, GARE. The meeting provided resources and networking opportunities with human relation offices across the world, and I have already developed a couple of work relationships and networks with offices around the U.S.
Great.
That is the end of my reports. If you have any questions.
Carl, do we have dates for any of the association of the MLK for Justice Group? Or those are
We
to
do
be
not-
determined?
They're to be determined. We had the meeting last Friday. No, not last Friday, the Friday before. And they all gave me their answered, yes, I could come. And so I just need to schedule those.
Right.
I'm just waiting for the materials to come, so I'll have them in hand when I go.
And so is it all the neighborhood associations? I don't even know how many there are. I know there's
I
at least.
sent them to all the ones that are located on, that are listed on the Urbana website.
Oh, okay.
I think there were 8 or 9.
Oh, wow, okay.
Really?
Maybe 10.
Wow.
Okay.
But it was, I think it might be 8 or 9.
Oh, okay, great.
But each of them got a letter
Okay,
requesting to visit with their groups.
great. All right. Thank you, Carla, for the report and all the hard work. Does anyone else have any questions for Carla? Okay. Then I think we'll move on to F1. So those are the TASER reviews for 2021 and 22. I guess we have Detective Smizer here. I talked with Carla today regarding this. I think we're going to do one video today. Or maybe, Detective, if you want to tell me what your, Lieutenant, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know if I demoted you or promoted you.
And Lieutenant,
I guess, right.
members, I was working with Lieutenant Smizer to get things loaded into the portal, and there was an additional videos that were loaded and reports.
Okay. So I don't know about the rest of the members. I looked through the portal last night. I saw the one video that took place. It was out in front of the fire department. A couple of concerns I had, and maybe Lieutenant, you can answer this, is the video was reference to a case, but we didn't have the reports in the file or on the portal. And I know you don't have access to that. Potentially was my understanding, but
At maybe the last half hour prior to our meeting, I was able to get those, he was able to get those to me and get them uploaded.
okay.
So they are now uploaded the reports are uploaded for all 3 3 cases that are pending.
Okay.
To be reviewed.
I guess in the interest of time, it would make sense to hear or view them tonight. Obviously, it would be hard for us all to have read the reports with a half hour before the meeting. And I think we can take questions about and I mean, there's no voting on this, of course, because we're not permitted to under the ordinance. I guess if in the future for the TASER reviews, like the reports would be great to go along with it, because the video is short. I think it displays everything we need to see as far as what occurred, but the context as to what's going on here, how did we get here, we needed additional. I think you're, yeah.
Huh? It gets
You may have to
greener.
hold it, I think.
I thought it was green, but
Oh, there we go.
is that a little better? If you feel that you haven't had enough time, which I would agree, I got put in today, to review the reports, and you'd like to do that before we discuss them, I'd be more than happy to come back the next meeting in February to kind of pick up from there. Or we could go through them today, and if you're satisfied with the review, then we can leave it at that.
I'm open to either, I guess. I mean, I don't want to delay them. I mean, we will then be into 2024. I guess another question I had, so we're just reviewing the 3, or there's 3 prepped and ready to go, the videos, is that correct?
They're prepped and ready to go. The videos aren't ready to go for public viewing. I'm having issues with the redaction.
Okay,
Now, I'm giving you some unredacted video through the portal that you can watch, although, and no issues there at all. But if you want to share them in a public setting, I don't have any except the first one that happened out here in front
Yeah.
of the
Firehouse.
building to review that I could show the video on the screen.
how many reports are there from the one we got tonight? you know.
How many,
And I apologize, I didn't have a chance to look at it before.
well, there's 3 reports.
There's 3 reports in the
In
portal,
total.
and it's under taser discharge reports, I believe.
I guess I'd prefer maybe we just do the one, since it's ready to go. Since you're gonna be back anyway next February, if we need to revisit it after people have had a chance to let it simmer, maybe we can talk about it again. It's a short video anyway.
The video, I think we had trouble with one of the videos. When I uploaded it, it was somehow uploading as a shortcut that wasn't playing on your end. So you got one of 2 videos that I uploaded. I just recently uploaded the second video, which is unredacted. I believe it's an hour and a half long. You'll be able to see it on your end, and of course, what you're going to be interested in is 90 seconds at the beginning. But the one that I did get redacted and we can review here is, I think, 3 to 4 minutes in total, something like that. Yeah. Is it okay for me to minimize this? Are we done with the, okay. So probably if you're looking at it through your portal, it would be U21-10826.
Right,
And that's the case number.
correct.
Would you prefer kind of an overview before we get into the video?
Yeah, if you could, Lieutenant, that'd be great.
Certainly. So this incident occurred on June 19th of 2021. It did occur, well, the taser discharge occurred right here at the building in front of the fire station at 400 South Vine Street. What led up to this incident was a domestic violence call, domestic battery specifically. A husband and wife who lived at the time here in Urbana. I guess we can get to that at the end. At the time they were living together, they had a young child, I believe 5 years old at the time, possibly 6. And they stayed at a residence in the north end of Urbana. They got into an altercation at the house. The allegation from the wife was that the husband punched her in the face. The child came inside while they were having a physical altercation inside the house. She was able to break away, grab the child, get in the car. He followed her in the car. When she's driving in the car, all 3 of them, he attacked her again, punching her a second time. She stopped here at the police department. She ran inside. He followed her in. Officers were dispatched here to handle it and located him standing outside the building. At which point, when they're trying to talk with him and figure out what was going on, he was trying to get away from them, highly agitated. And as officers were trying to take him into custody, he was backing up, balling up his fists as though he was going to fight them. And in fact, when the officers grabbed him, he swung around and punched an officer in the face, at which point the taser was discharged. It worked. There was good connection. It locked him up. He fell to the ground. They were able to take him into custody. You want to watch the video now?
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, it's over there.
And oh, it's not on. Is there a way to get it on the other screen?
I
It-
can see it
It
there.
did earlier, but that one now still has the screen that I minimized, so I don't know. Yeah, it's playing on that one.
What's on that one, too?
Is it on that one?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's on that one over there.
Two. Oh.
So the only thing that changed is when we came and plugged this one in that gave you access to the remote, the clicker. Would it? Oh, it wasn't up there, that's right, but it was changing on this screen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this one wasn't changing.
It's, the public can view,
So they're seeing what I'm seeing?
seeing what you're seeing.
Is it,
Okay.
or is it okay for you? Can
I
you
mean,
all
as
see
long as
that
it's
screen?
being publicly, as long as the public sees it, I've got it here. Why don't we just play it there, and then we can view it.
Okay,
I've got it up on my,
and I should say, this one that is redacted, and which is why I'm showing it, is from the view of an officer who did not discharge the taser. So she was one of the first ones on scene in dealing with him, but the taser discharge video is on your portal. That's the very long one, but I don't have that redacted for public consumption at the moment.
and was that the one that was just uploaded?
Yeah.
Okay, I was
So
gonna say,
that
'cause
was,
I didn't see it last
it was
night.
initially uploaded, but apparently the link somehow wasn't working. So I just uploaded the entire thing.
Okay.
But that was just a while ago.
Lieutenant, let's have you play yours first, and then we can watch ours, just so the audio doesn't
Okay.
cross.
You had 350 come out with 367. Stop.
I'm not messing with y'all. Stop. Don't do it. Stop. Let go of me, ma'am. Let go of me. Let go of me, ma'am.
Stop walking.
Let go of me, ma'am.
Stop walking.
Keep your hands behind your back now. Stop resisting. I got 379. We have taser deployment. We got one in custody.
You.
Yeah.
You good, man? You breathe?
I agree.
Okay.
You good?
Yeah.
You're good?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Go ahead.
Let's see where we hit him.
On us.
Turn this way, man. Yep. There you go. Gonna have fire come get these out, or?
I got 379. Can we start fire for check it?
It's the wrong choice, man. You got any weapons on you? Knives? Guns? Anything?
Nope.
All right. Watch it. You feel anything over there?
No. Just wait. We'll take it out.
Can't fucking hear it in my ear.
All right. Okay. Sir, are you hurting anywhere besides your where the taser hit you? What's your name, man?
You wanna look at me? Let me see your face. Is that his blood there?
Yeah. It's all smell. You good, Marquez? You gonna stay like this, or you wanna sit up on your butt?
Sit up and get some water and some Burger King.
Some water. We could probably do water. I don't think we can do some Burger King.
Here you go. There you go. There you go.
Did it hurt, man?
Huh?
Did it hurt? A little bit? I'm fine, man. I'm good.
Are you hurting anywhere? We're gonna have an ambulance come and check you out. All right.
This one is, port's not attached.
Why don't you go get a squad?
Oh. Right there. I'll just pull it up.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Anyone have questions?
He was arrested?
He was arrested, yes.
Was it after the video that he was arrested or during? I just didn't hear the Miranda rights. That's what I was asking.
Miranda rights don't come until a police interrogation begins. And at that point, when they're just talking, when they're not talking about the criminal aspects of the case, they're asking, are you all right? Do you need anything? That,
Was there any investigation as to under the policy, they're supposed to announce the use of the taser? You can see in the background the officer who discharged it. You can see him clearly pulling it out before the suspect swings at the other. I think, I guess maybe for clarity, the officer who deployed the taser was not the one who was struck.
correct.
Okay. So the officer who had the taser, he had it out of the holster before the detainee struck the other officer. Is there a reason why he didn't say, I have a taser, I'm going to tase you, something along those lines, before it got to the point where he was tased, and possibly before the officer would have been hit?
I believe if you played it back and watched it again, you'd see it just unfolded extremely fast. And then, like it says in policy, when it's not necessary, when it's not practicable due to the circumstances. And I believe that this instance would fall into those circumstances where things move very quickly to the point where we're going from a subject who was balling up his fists and kind of taking up a fighting stance to swinging on the officer. So
I guess it seemed like he became more agitated once the one officer grabbed the hood of his jacket, and that's when he started to get more agitated. I mean, the taser policy gives a lot of discretion when these things can and can't be done, or when it's practicable to announce. It does unfold quickly. I don't know if the officers were concerned he was going to flee or not. It seemed like, I don't know. Was he driving the vehicle? We don't know, or was he a passenger?
she was driving.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
And this wasn't a stun drive, correct? This all.
Not
he
a
hit-
drive stun. This
Yeah.
was a discharge in the classic sense.
And did the ambulance show up later?
They did, and in the unredacted version, you'll see just a minute or two later, the firefighters who are actually at that station came out with their bags, and I believe were the first ones there, and the ambulance arrived within minutes thereafter.
Was there, and we didn't have any, was there any reason, I didn't look at the reports, there wasn't any indication of anyone being intoxicated?
Not that I would recall reading the reports myself, no, it wasn't an issue of intoxication. She did share that there were some concerns on her part due to his deteriorating mental health over the course of a number of months. He was getting more violent with her, and unfortunately that would be bore out by what happened months later, although not in March of 2022, so 9 months later, he murdered her and the son and killed himself in Bloomington, Illinois.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
I guess as far as looking at it from a policy standpoint and not this individual issue or incident, because that's not what we're here to review, I looking at any of these, I still find that the use of the verbal warnings, I think, and from the training that I've seen in the videos that were displayed by Officer or Deputy Searles, when someone pulls the taser and says, "I've got it here," that gets compliance pretty fast.
At times, and I don't know if you remember the last time I was here, but we had a conversation about that, and you asked me how often that happened. I'll have you know that we've moved to a new use of force reporting system, and as I was building out that program, it's frankly a good idea, and that's something that I included in the reporting. So from, about 2 weeks, let's see what time it is. I don't know, about a month ago from here on out, those questions are being asked of the officers when we're doing use of force reporting.
Oh, it's included in, did you give a verbal
It will
warning?
be included from now on. Did a verbal warning stop the, did it cause the subject to comply?
Right.
And not only while it is a specific question to tasers, it's also going to be for other weapons that are displayed,
Oh, I
whether
see.
it's a firearm, baton, OC spray.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I mean,
so we'll have better than, hopefully in another year or so, we'll have a good data to draw from as opposed to just anecdotally.
sure.
I believe you're probably right that in a number of instances it does work and it does help. The question just becomes how often.
Sure. Yeah, we'd be guessing as to percentages, but, I mean, obviously you're sometimes dealing with individuals who aren't behaving rationally, and that's where a taser is useful, because they're still, I guess the concern I always have with these is they're less lethal. They're not 100% safe.
Correct.
And
And
if we
in
can
this-
avoid using them and gain compliance and no one walks away with any injuries, including the officers responding, then that's a win for everybody.
Speaking of injuries, I don't believe I shared, but he did, the suspect that was taken into custody broke a tooth when he hit the ground. So that was noted in the report. The officer was punched in the face, but suffered no long-term injury from that.
Okay.
And that's, as we've all discussed previously, not uncommon when dealing with tasers because of the way that they work and they lock you up and you fall over.
Right.
A lot of times the injury that's sustained is from the fall.
I don't have any other questions. I don't know if the rest of the board has questions.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of follow up on the use of tasers just displaying a taser and how it discourages or how it can de-escalate a situation. I didn't realize, we were looking at the video for today, and I looked at the 22 display cases, not any of the discharge cases, so I need to talk to you about that, so I'm better prepared. But of the 22 cases that I looked at today that were just taser displays in 2019, 20, and 21, all of them, all 22, involved incidents where a taser was displayed and led to compliance, not discharged. So, I mean, that's why they were in that report, because they were just displays. But-
Right. You're not incorrect in stating that. The question becomes, as a deeper dive, is that the reason that they complied? And sometimes the answer is hard to discern,
Yeah.
but we have to use,
I know there's been some follow-up in some of the other reports. Lieutenant, maybe in your pursuit of collecting more data, if you can always ask the detainee or the suspect, did the verbal command or did the display of the taser cause you to comply?
Yep.
I mean,
and that's part of the instructions for the use of force that we
okay.
do include for the officers, and that is the question that the officers need to answer. And there's absolutely nothing stopping them from asking that of the person who the taser was displayed to.
Yeah.
Whether the person will give you an answer, sometimes
Sure,
they will,
right.
sometimes they won't.
Right.
But you'd have to use your best judgment at that point to make a determination. Similar to how we do on other things, whether we believe mental health played a large role in the incident. sometimes that's based on your best, I don't want to say guess, but you have to use the facts that are put out in front of you, because it's not always completely apparent. And so the officers need to do a little digging and make a determination at some point, so.
But I also understand when the circumstances are such that the proximity is very close and you don't have seconds or minutes apart, you only have seconds apart, that sometimes there's not enough time to announce I'm pulling my taser when you have to actually pull it.
Correct.
But
And there are times, and I think one of the ones that unfortunately I couldn't get the video redacted to show, but you have access to one of the other two, you will, it's a similar situation in the sense that when the officer arrived with the taser, there was not, it was very fast when he arrived. Now 3 officers were already on scene trying to corral him as they were in the front yard. So at that point, again, there was no warning given, but everything that had happened up to that point, I again believe is within policy when we're talking about the practicality of making announcements ahead of time.
In this one in particular, it seemed like, as I was watching it, it seemed like he really threaded the needle in hitting the suspect, as opposed to either the officer whose camera we were watching from and the other officer who was struck. It happened very quickly. It looked like, and I don't know if the other officers were aware he had it out. Maybe they saw it in their peripheral vision, but you know, the other reason to announce is so that everybody knows you've got it. So
Yep.
it's not just, it's for the other officers as well as the suspect as well. But because this one, it looked, I was surprised that it landed, because it just looked like it was tight quarters, fast-moving people, and a lot of people in the area, and
Yeah,
and it's not inaccurate. I mean, it is accurate, but it's not like a firearm. Those projectiles don't go the same way that a
Sure.
bullet may travel.
Yeah, they definitely have to spread. It's this would also be a good one if you have time to watch it on the portal later. Different perspectives, because you can't. This perspective doesn't show the swing very well. The perspective from the officer who discharged the firearm, you get a very good view of the kind of the haymaker that he comes around and catches the officer with as he's turning.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, cameras aren't infallible. They don't show everything, but they're good most of the time. They definitely help sort out these types of incidents.
Right. I think that's all the questions we had for this incident. I guess one request I would have, and maybe we can talk off at a different time, but is there a reason why we're getting just redacted reports completely? Because it can be very hard to read and follow when black boxes are talking to black boxes, and it's hard to follow. I understand the reason to redact some of the information, addresses. We don't really have much interest in those, but just being able to put together the players can be it can be useful if we can see those names. That's just
I guess I would point to the ordinance in section 1945 that says that the police department shall redact all information which could be otherwise used to identify the specific individuals involved. So
45?
19-45, paragraph A.
Right, but if we could see something, I don't need a specific individual, but initials or just even a first name would be useful. And I think that it accomplishes the purposes of the ordinance, that we're not privy to that information. we're also, under the ordinance, required not to disclose any of this information. You know, it can make sometimes some of the issues difficult to review in advance when it's hard to figure out who's doing what in the reports. But that's just, I think we can possibly get somewhere where we're not getting individuals, but we're able to just get an idea of who's doing what, even if it's just person A and person B or something like that.
Person A, person B, something,
Yeah.
okay. I don't know, I don't do the redaction. The redaction's done by other staff, and I don't know how much of I could inquire with
Yeah,
them.
I've seen some redaction stuff where it's redacted, but in the redaction it identifies like the same person, I guess.
Like if you were to give them letters or
Sign-
numbers,
right,
person
yeah.
A, person B.
I don't know what the software you have does, but I've seen that where it will redact, and that particular person is tagged as person A, and then person B, C, and so forth. But or like, you know, suspect versus police officer 1, police officer 2, or something like that.
Okay.
Just
can
kind of
inquire.
it can help fill in some of the gaps to be more prepared. But given the presentation, it's filled in the gaps, but it's just nice I like to read them. But so I think we'll do that one today, and then Lieutenant will have you back in February to do the other 2, or possibly if there are more to get done, I think we can just the 2.
Just the 2, and I believe, I know the video was already there for the one in the report we put in, so you can
watch
access that from
Great.
here until February, and then in February, hopefully, I will, at that point, be able to get it drilled down to portions that we need. The redaction software is, I can't blame it all on the software. Some of it's probably me using the software, but it can be difficult to navigate. But I'll have it ready for you by February.
All right. I think that's all
Thank
for
you,
tonight.
Lieutenant.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move on then to F2, the suspended cases. I got some information. I think, Carly, you may know more about this. I can defer to you if you want to fill in, because I'm getting it secondhand from Ricardo via text message.
Yeah. I spoke with Ricardo, I'll take you back. Ricardo and I, we talked about this back in the summer, and so I had compiled some information for him to find out how many suspended cases we had, and I think we talked about it at one of our, I think at the September meeting, we talked about how many suspended cases do we have of citizen complaints. And so I compiled that, and we had looked at it, and then when I dug a little deeper, I found that there's a hodgepodge of cases that they're not suspended, but they appear that they're suspended. So I did a quick analysis this afternoon and looked at them. There were 12 complaints that were identified as suspended. And then the identified cases were researched, and currently the status of those cases are as follows. 4 of the complaints were officially suspended per request of the UPD, and those are dates from 2022 to 2023. 2 of the complaints, the complainants are incarcerated. 3 of the complaints were stalled due to complainant being unresponsive to requests for information from the OHRE. In instances where they were missing the narrative of why they were complaining. So when the office reached out to them to get that information, they were unresponsive, or if we said, you know, we needed information from them, they just did not respond.
That was 2, sorry?
There was 3.
3,
We
okay.
were stalled.
Okay.
And then 3 of the complaints were investigated by UPD and brought to a conclusion. So I'm not sure how the suspension versus the conclusion of the investigation, how those 2 did not get updated. So technically, there are 3 suspended cases, or 4 suspended cases right now.
And those are there are active
They're-
cases that are filed?
They are filed, they were filed and suspended in 2022 and 2023. So
I guess, I'm sorry, do we know if the state's attorney picked those up? Or
I don't know, I don't have that
We don't, okay.
information. And I can share with you, let me find it here.
is that, and I'm assuming that's not something we've reached out to ask, are they proceeding with prosecution? They decline to prosecute? Because if that's the case, then I think we can,
I have not reached out to the complainants.
no, I meant
We're-
the state's
The
attorney's
state's
office.
attorney. No, I have not done that. Of the ones that were suspended, one was suspended in March of 2022, and so a projected date would be March 2024, because they say they have a 2-year look back that they can still file a complaint or file a lawsuit. And then the other one was 7/27/22, so that one would potentially be July 27th of 24. And then the other one was 6/1 of 23, and it can possibly be up to 6/1/25.
Okay. So are there any that we can proceed on? Or no, of all of these none of them have been appealed either. There's 3 that were investigated, those have not been appealed.
No, those have not.
Okay,
We have not received any new appeals in the
Okay.
last 2 years, I believe.
okay. Okay.
So if none of them have been appealed, what is our role with regard to these? Just monitor,
Just
track?
to track them,
just to-
right.
gotcha.
That's what we, yeah. And all of those are in the law, they're in the log, okay. Yeah, so, right, if they're not appealed, we don't take any action. There's nothing for us to review, except if you, Carla does a great job in updating us when things are in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you can at your leisure go in and look at in the shared drive to just see what the complaints are about.
And because I was putting this all together today, I'm going to update the logs for those where they said they were suspended. I'm going to make sure that the information is accurate.
Right.
They were either completed or why they weren't completed.
Okay. Great, thank you, Carla. Then I think, unless there's other questions about the suspended cases, we'll move to F3, which is the updates to the ordinance. Next steps, I know we have the 3 buckets. We've discussed, Peggy, you wanted to discuss, maybe this is the time to discuss a little bit more about what you wanted to bring up as far as updates to the ordinance. I don't know if, Carla, did you?
Well, Peggy had mentioned that someone was going to review the video. I think I was tasked with reviewing the video.
Oh, were you? Okay.
So I went back and I reviewed the video from September 28th, I think, 2020. Is that the date? Was it September 2020? And it was specifically looking for what were the steps to bring the changes to the council to get them moving forward. And so what I got from the video was that the CPRB representative presents orally, and then if they are agreeable with the changes, council will direct staff to draft an ordinance, and then that ordinance would be submitted to the council committee of the whole. And then if it moves from the committee of the whole, it will go to the council meeting, and then the members will vote on the changes at the council meeting.
That's the process. I mean, I guess I don't feel like we need to talk more about what we talked about at the last meeting. Mostly, I was bringing it up because I wanted to make sure it was included in the record. I understand that there were 2 or 3 significant changes that were discussed on this board before I joined, membership and access to files. I think they kind of felt. So I guess is how it was explained to me, member, who is allowed to be a member of the board.
Who could serve on the board, and whether or not it was going to be, if we're precluding former officers, was it going to be a quid pro quo, I guess, between the former officers and individuals with felony convictions? That was one big change. The other was the discussion about the first, what constituted first person, or it's worded so poorly in the ordinance, at least
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
what constitutes a first person's account? And then, yeah, the other about the access to records, I think, I mean, we've gotten a lot more of the records from, being police reports, video from the complaints at this point. Not to say that it shouldn't be put into the ordinance expressly, but I think we're getting the information we're looking for
Okay, so that's less. than-
anyway. So it's, and not to say that it's not significant, it should be included, but practically speaking, I think we're not for want of information in reviewing appeals when it comes to that.
Okay.
But, and so I guess the purpose of that, of F3, the updates, was just to discuss how we go about presenting it. Because the council wanted, when we presented, or it was either me and Ricardo or just Ricardo, they wanted more than just a piecemeal, let's talk about first-person account. They wanted a comprehensive review and proposal for changes. So that's, you know, we can set a time to maybe discuss that at the board, maybe the next meeting. And I had previously, you know, gone through and looked through the ordinance and flagged different things I thought were an issue. You know, but I don't think we've ever talked about it at a meeting where we can all talk about it just based on open meetings. It's always been a one-to-one discussion about, you know, this or that. If you haven't looked through the whole ordinance, I mean, I think we've all been on the board long enough to kind of understand it. And then I know we have a copy of that open letter that was given to the board that listed out all of it was I forget how it was.
Where the 3 buckets came from?
Yes, where the 3 buckets came from. That listed other things.
I do
as well.
have it. I'm not sure if it was disseminated, because that was prior to my tenure,
okay.
but
Maybe-
I can get it sent
Yeah.
out to everyone.
That might be
Yeah,
helpful.
I think that would be good, because that was definitely given to the board before some of the members
Probably
were on
Ashley
it.
and I, yeah.
Yeah, I think, I wasn't gonna name names. But
Okay. That's right. They're the new kids.
But, yeah, before you and Ashley were on the board. And that has some suggestions as well, and I think, you know, maybe it would be good to take that up in February or to just kind of discuss that in the open, as opposed to just one-to-one, because it should be the whole board discussing those changes, and then, yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know if we want to discuss any of that tonight. We haven't had a chance to look at it, so maybe we
Right.
can add that to the agenda for February as
That sounds
an
good.
item to discuss ordinance changes, and maybe we can, yeah, I mean, maybe we can, maybe,
That will give us time. That would give us time to, that would give us time to review, time to get the letter, to ask questions, to flag.
Right,
And we want to make, you know, sometimes slowing down is a little good, it's good.
right.
right.
So I think I make the recommendation that we add that to our agenda for our February meeting.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay.
If Carl, if you can disseminate that letter, and then if everyone just read the ordinance, it's
Right.
not terribly long.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I carry around all the time, but if we could also just list the things that we've already sort of discussed. I mean, the other thing language we did agree to last meeting was about the language around recurrent requesters that we all agreed with needed to be part of the new ordinance.
In some form, I don't know if we.
Right, well, we had some language that I submitted and
That's
people
right,
felt
that's
okay
right,
about it.
that's
So,
right.
I mean, it's very short, but I would find it helpful if we're gonna discuss this, if we could maybe just list out for all of us, because not all of us are at every meeting, you know, sometimes I miss, you know, that these were the 4 or 5 things that we flagged, and there may well be others, but just so we're not, you know, having to
Mm-hmm.
backtrack and remind ourselves, because even if I am at a meeting, 2 months between meetings, is,
Right, no,
memory
it's-
fades.
right.
So there were a couple things we've already talked about: recurrent requesters, use of video, the procedural issue about who responds to administrative complaints, and then the
Serving on the board.
items. Yeah, right.
So just so for clarity, you would like I think there's 5 things so far that you would like to add on the agenda? Like, I can subcategorize those
Yeah, let's
on
do
the
that.
agenda
Let's start
of
with 5.
ordinance,
and
ordinance
then-
changes,
Right.
suggested changes, and then list those.
And that may be enough for council to want to take up if there's 5.
Yeah. Right, I think so.
And then we can also discuss more than that next meeting if we.
Right, there may be other things that people flag and say, this, if we're gonna make some changes, this needs to be up there too. These were things that just were so apparent after we spent a year or
Right.
year and a half on so many appeals. Some things were very obvious
Right.
to many of us, so. But there may be other things as well.
Okay.
Anyway,
Any other discussion about the ordinance changes? Okay, we will discuss that further or in more depth at the next meeting. If the public has comments about that, feel free to reach out to us in email. If there are any particular changes to the ordinance you'd like to see, we would be interested in hearing those as well. Our emails are online, and the board email is online, and you're also free to show up in person and discuss it as well. Let's move then to section G, new business, G1, Barry Dunn review regarding the role of CPRB. Peggy, do you have
right, and
information on this?
yeah, I just brought up, as I think we all know, Barry Dunn's been in the city for the last 6 or so months, in and out, conducting one-on-one interviews with people on CPRB and community surveys. And then last week or 2 weeks ago, they had a community meeting to get input on the work that they're doing, which is to kind of determine, evaluating Urbana's public safety delivery model. And they're analyzing calls for service that the police are dispatched to see if we are responding in the most effective, efficient ways. I didn't take the survey. I did go to their community meeting a couple weeks ago, and it was very, very interesting. They made mention that one of the items under their review is the role of the CPRB, but made clear that the community meeting was not to talk about that. They wanted to get input about alternative ways to respond to calls for service. They weren't talking about the CPRB. So I wanted it to be brought up here to find out, what do we know about their work, or do we know anything, and how will we find out about that? Because I understand they said in the next few weeks they are finalizing their report, and we'll share that out with the city and the community then.
I can share. I know I spoke with them, this was some time ago now. In part of their preparation of this report, they asked about the CPRB, and I had a good half-hour discussion with them, maybe longer. I think maybe Ricardo did. I don't know if they
And I
interviewed.
did too,
Did
yeah.
you? Okay,
yeah,
you did.
they
all
might
right.
have interviewed
I don't know if
bunch
they
of us.
talked to any of the former members or not, but I haven't heard anything since. I'm assuming will be a sub-paragraph or 2 in the final report. Maybe we'll get a full-on paragraph, but I don't know how in-depth they've gone beyond
Okay.
the interviews that they did with the members and possibly former members. Carla, is there?
And I did look to see if there were any updates. It's an 18-month project, and it started in late 2022, so
Okay.
they're expecting a final report. It's not in the next few weeks, but it's actually,
6 months from now.
it'll be
Oh.
approximately 6 months from now.
Okay, I misunderstood it, about 6 months, okay.
And let's see, and they've been conducting, like you said, they've been conducting this community safety review. And at this time, they are continuing to collect and analyze data. and no reports or recommendations have been submitted at this time.
Okay, all right. All right, well, thank you. I just thought it's something, actually, kind of to that point, I mean, this is kind of related to that, is, you know, I talked to them because I was specifically contacted when they were here last April or May, making those one-on-one contacts. But the survey and the community meeting, I just found out about very incidentally. I mean, someone mentioned it to someone. And so I guess, is there a way for, I don't know, one of you to let those of us on the board know when there are things going on that are kind of loosely or directly under our purview that we should know about, police-related meetings or reports such as this? I know, kind of in that same category, Chief Boone was having listening sessions. Again, I happened to find out about one that I went to, but I didn't find out through this means, and I could well not have found out about that because it just happened to get mentioned to me. City Council, sometimes I notice there's certain things on their agenda that relate to our work, but sometimes when I look at the agenda, it just says something very generic, and I would never have known that to be the case, except that someone later on said, oh, they were talking about such and such. I don't know if that's a reasonable thing to ask, but I feel like there's a lot often going on out in the community or within our own city council that is of interest to us that I don't know about.
I get,
I do know that Ricardo had asked, and I followed up with that, and all of you are, have been added to all of the notifications that go out from when the city is announcing events and things.
I've been getting those, so
I
yeah.
have too, but I didn't, like the Barry Dunn thing didn't come through that. The chief for listening sessions didn't come through that.
I don't know who's doing the marketing or
Okay.
who's advertising those, because I don't often get things either, so I
Okay.
can't tell you, but
Thank
I
you,
can
Katrina.
ask.
Okay.
But
Well, it's-
to
right.
know what's going on across the organization, I may not always be privy to
Okay.
those things.
And I get all the city council
Yeah.
agendas, but, you know, and I look at them, and once in a while, it'll have some detail, but otherwise, it'll just say reports, you know, or city reports. And I didn't know that, oh, this was going to be the police report, or this was going to be a review of such and such. I mean,
Yeah, I guess, I get all the notifications, I think they're pretty useful. I heard about the chief's listening sessions through the Woona Neighborhood Association email.
true. But if you're not,
That's-
on- I mean,
No, right,
that's-
I mean, you gotta.
I don't count it.
I don't know how active the other neighborhood organization email chains are, and sometimes it's more active than I would like, but,
Yeah.
it's usually good information. That's gotta be posted on like a Facebook or,
They're probably posting it on Facebook and probably on the website.
yeah.
Well, yeah,
I follow all the Urbana Facebook groups or, whatever, government, and so it does show up. You have to be
Facebook,
on Facebook a lot, which is.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not on Facebook,
probably-
but if there's a place
right.
on the website that I
It's-
should
you're-
monitor,
You're better off
I'm
for
happy
it,
to.
Peggy.
There's usually, I believe it's events or happenings.
There's a
There is
calendar, isn't
There is a
there?
calendar, yeah.
Yeah, on the city's website? Okay.
Yeah.
That I can do, anyway. Yeah, I'm not trying to add to already an overburdened workload. It's just, it occurred to me just since our last meeting, there was these various events that I just happened to find out about, and I thought, gee, I could just as easily not have found out about it, and I thought there might be an easier way to be notified of such things, so I will check the city's website.
Well, I do know that the chief will be having another listening session tomorrow at Salt and Light.
That's right, that's where it is.
Okay.
I believe it's from 6 to 8.
It's something,
All right.
no, I got. Something about that. Peggy, I will look for it and I will let you know. But it's sometime tomorrow.
But I guess my main question wasn't, what do you know right now? It's just, is there a way for me to stay apprised of things as they come up? And it sounds like there's not an easy way. I will be more active looking at the city's website. But that is something I think would be a useful resource, and I'm just raising it.
And if you hear something, send it to us. We
Yeah.
may be able to
Sure.
share it for
Okay.
everybody else
Right,
that
Okay.
way.
Right. Great. All right, I think Are we done with Barry Dunn?
Yes, I think we're done with Barry Dunn.
Let's move on to G, we've done G2, we've approved the minutes, or the schedule. Board input and communications, I don't know if there's any other information we want to share currently. I think we
I just
may have-
wanted to, you mentioned Ashley and Tom took the TASER training last month, which was
Oh, yeah.
super interesting and helpful, and the most, probably aha moment or useful data point that I learned was how seldom TASERs are actually discharged. I mean, I think as of the meeting we went to, which was in October 19th, there had been no TASER discharges this past year. Many displays, I mean, I forget the number, but many displays, but so seldom discharged. And the way it was explained to us by Sergeant Hurley and Gardner was that because that's, in their experience, displaying it was sufficient.
Sure.
Anyways, it was a super helpful thing. And the only other thing I want to mention, when I did go to the Chief Boone listening session, which was also super, useful on November 9th, there was about 20 people present, but that included police officers and city council members. Probably the one or two things that was talked about over and over again was the use of technology in general, and license plate readers in particular, and sort of how one allocates resources for crime prevention, community investment, youth development versus crime solving, use of tasers, money for tasers, money for license plate readers. And I mean, it wasn't there was any consensus around the issue, but clearly that was an area of conflict. And I must say, when I went to the community meeting with Barry Dunn at the end of November, that topic was raised again, only slightly differently, when they were talking about calls for safety and how do we prefer to have police spend their time.
Right.
That same tension between tools for crime management versus resources for community investment. I mean, it's a tension that exists. So
Yeah,
that's
and
the only thing I want to mention.
Yeah, I don't know if we've discussed it in this meeting, but I think those types of issues and discussing it with the public, I think CPRB can be a great board to have those presentations be made, questions be asked, especially regarding technology, give city council an opportunity to, watch a presentation that we put on and not take up their time at a council meeting, where we can possibly flesh out a lot of the questions they have about those technologies, or even alternative or community investment, alternative use of police time, or alternative use of city resources to prevent crime that doesn't involve more police presence and investment in the community, youth, stopping it before it happens. I think this board could step into that role as being the go-between before it gets to council, and that way, we can discuss those issues and act as the members of the public, or have the public come in as well and have just a discussion about those issues would be great. I think that would be a good use of this board. Not that we don't do a lot, but I think preventative things, or just discussing the role of the police using new technology or a new way of engaging with the community. I think this is a prime board to hear those presentations, and possibly a non-binding recommendation up or down would be useful for the council. I don't know, but
Yeah.
that's, I think, something that we could definitely fill a missing link to before it gets to the city council. But
Yeah, no, I agree. And maybe it makes sense to wait until we get the results of the Barry Dunn analysis and some of their thoughts about alternative methods, non-traditional methods for responding. I mean, they talked about that quite a bit at the community meeting.
Sure.
So that we aren't, talking about something without some information that's new information about how we currently are responding to calls and what, they brought up some examples of other communities and some of the alternative approaches. So we're not jumping the gun or saying something that's kind of conflicts with some of the information they present.
Sure. I guess what I mean is, whether or not we go with these alternative methods, the conversation is something that can be had here with us, with members of the public, with whoever it is that puts the presentation together, a member of the department, and let's talk about whatever it is we're here to talk about. Let's talk about license plate readers here. And then that way, you've got city council can, at their leisure, watch this whole thing and be better informed when they come back in front of them, or something like that. You can, you don't have to sit through and not waste, but use council time that may be better spent on something else.
Yeah, no, that makes.
That's what I'm saying. But
I
again,
agree, yeah.
the board may be ready to fill that role if anyone's listening. Any?
No, but that fits quite nicely with the next item, which is that we need more people on the board.
Right, yes.
As evidenced by,
We still have 2 spots open, or 5 right now. We have 2 spots open. You can apply online, I believe. I don't know if we we haven't had any applications recently. So if your New Year's resolution is to be more active with the community, we have 2 open spots, and we would enjoy having more voices at the table. So yes, those are still open. I'll move into the next meeting. We're scheduled for February 28th. That's a Wednesday, 5:30. Any other items, communications I'm overlooking here? I don't think so. So then I'll take a motion to adjourn if that's all we've got.
so I move adjournment.
We've lost our second. So
I'll second it too.
we're gonna break Robert's rules here. Hopefully he doesn't visit us in our dreams. We'll adjourn with just a voice call. Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Have a
Thank
good holiday.
you.
Be
Thank
safe.
you.